Chicago. So it was an incredibly deadly weekend in Chicago. And while a whole lot of people, I believe more than 70 people was injured in Chicago over the weekend, Chicago was studying making sure that they give back reparations to black people. Make sure you hit a like for the algorithm, subscribe to the channel, and turn on your notifications. Let's get into it, y'all.
Another particularly violent weekend in Chicago after at least 45 people were shot across the city, and this morning another 25 people wounded in two separate mass shooting incidents.
WGN's Courtney Spinelli is live at Chicago Police headquarters with the latest. Courtney.
Yeah, Ryan Lourdes, it was a particularly violent start to the week on the heels of Father's Day weekend. Chicago police investigating a handful of shooting incidents, including 2 deadly shootings in the morning hours today and 2 shootings that left a total of 12 victims wounded, including a teenage girl who was shot in the neck, taken to the hospital in serious condition.
Back in the streets, you know, because they got body over there.
A large gathering in the Humboldt Park.
Hey, did y'all see the language that's being used? Brandon Johnson has effectively trained Chicago media to refer to a whole bunch of people that's somewhere where they're not supposed to be. Why is it this many people inside of a gas station? This is a gas station. This is a parking lot gas station. And you can bet your bottom dollar, 100 times out of 100, when there is this many people in a place that they're not supposed to be, past a certain time at night, there is going to be violence. There is going to be somebody that beef, somebody that fight. Then they're going to pull out a gun and it's going to go negative. I've seen it 100 times out of 100. He has trained the media to use the words large gathering.
Back in the streets, you know, because they got body over there.
A large gathering in the Humboldt Park neighborhood.
Hey, hold on. Look at my man over here in the right-hand corner. That's a man in a wheelchair that's trying to get away. You see the wheelchair guy? Listen, right-hand side of the screen, there's a guy in a wheelchair that is reeling himself fast as hell in order to get away from the violence. A wheelchair.
In the Humboldt Park neighborhood, spilling over into the parking lot of a gas station at Iowa.
We got to do better, bro. Chris James, I'm going to be reading that Cash App shortly. We got to do better, bro. Honest to God. Listen, bro. Look, Anton, hush, man, you lowering my property value. Stop hating on us. Let us be great in Chicago. Be great. What? It's a man in a wheelchair that is wheeling away from a quote-unquote large gathering in Chicago. It was over 70 people shot, more than 70 people over the weekend because it was the warmest weekend of the year so far. It's a man in a wheelchair that is trying to get the heck up out of Dodge.
In Pulaski around 12:45 Monday morning.
Guy.
Surveillance video capturing the moment someone opened fire.
I closed the door because I'm a cashier and there's someone did shoot, you know.
Police say 5 victims between the ages of 15 and 35 were shot as local leaders announced plans Monday to expand community violence intervention programs in 4 neighborhoods. One of those includes Humboldt Park.
It's extremely hurtful, but I think it reinforces the need to have more resources infused into our neighborhoods, to be honest with you.
Those involved in the effort say the expanded resources are needed to get in front of the violence before it happens, not to respond only after.
Even though those numbers are high, if we weren't out there doing the work, those numbers would be significantly higher.
The Humboldt Park shooting was one of more than a dozen between midnight and 8:30 Monday morning across the city. At least 25 people were shot, including 2 people who lost their lives. The first deadly shooting happening in the 7600 block of North Paulina when a 45-year-old man was shot multiple times and died from his injuries. In another incident on the 6000 block of South Winchester in the city's West Englewood neighborhood, police say 7 victims, men and women between the ages of 20 and 34, were shot just before 2 Monday morning.
I didn't realize that anybody got shot. I was woke when the shooting occurred.
Police say it appears the suspects were shooting at each other close by the victims. Mary Retta Beeman Robinson says her husband looked outside to see what was going on.
I think it just look from somewhere else. Don't open the door and just stick your head out there, because you'll never know where the bullets are and where they're coming from.
Beeman Robinson estimates several hundred people were outside gathering as multiple parties were being held.
Another large gathering.
on the block. She says police came by earlier in the night but did not break up the parties. She hopes something more can be done because she says this isn't the first time these large gatherings have happened on the block.
This dude literally has convinced y'all to use the word large gatherings in Chicago. Good God.
Everybody's not bad. You know, everybody out there wasn't bad. It's just that the situation got out of control when people should have been at home.
One of the victims in the West Englewood shooting was critically injured, a 20-year-old man. As for arrests in any of these cases, police have not announced any in relation to the shootings that happened in the morning hours.
Let me guess, nobody got caught. Meanwhile, and thank you, Curtis Taylor. I'm definitely going to be reading that super chat shortly. Meanwhile, while there were over 70 people shot, 8 of them died so far. Some of them are still in the hospital. Chicago is taking a page out of a suburban Chicago towns playbook, and that they are now studying and taking steps towards a reparations program. Check it out.
The city of Chicago taking a major step towards enacting a reparations program. Mayor Johnson announcing a new task force to examine how the city can remedy what he calls policies that have harmed black Chicagoans from slavery era to present day.
CBS 2 political reporter Chris Ty is live in our newsroom with what we know so far about this. Chris.
Joe and Marie, how will the money be dispersed? Who qualifies and how will it be funded moving forward? Just some of the questions a newly formed task force will tackle as the mayor rolls out his plan 2 days before the U.S. commemorates the end of slavery this Wednesday, Juneteenth.
It's imperative that it is now the time to deliver good on reparations for people of Chicago, and particularly black people of the city of Chicago.
On the week of Juneteenth, Chicago taking its biggest step yet to offer reparations to descendants of enslaved Africans. Mayor Johnson signing an executive order that launches a black reparations task force to design what comes next.
We're going to invest $500,000 into the study of restoration and reparations for the city of Chicago.
So I've already known about this because I've studied Chicago's budget. This is not anything new. This is something that he announced, and that was a part of, or an earmark, that was a part of Chicago's budget. I think he talked about it maybe a little less than 6 months ago, top of the year, something like that. Anyways, he had already said that he was going to earmark $500,000 for a couple of people or whatever, some task force, to go out and study. So this isn't actually reparations. This is them basically approving a line item that they passed in the Chicago budget that all of the aldermen agreed with, that ultimately is going to spend $500,000 trying to figure out how it is that they can reparate black people over in Chicago. All right, let's continue.
So that we can begin to move in the direction of complete liberation.
Mayor Lightfoot did not see the gravity in this that I guess I saw.
Former Chicago Alderman Roderick Sawyer is part of Chicago's Reparations Advisory Commission.
It's not just give me a...
Even if you're not an alderman, even if you get voted out, even if somebody runs and wins your seat, you still can come back and be a part of the advisory commission and make a commission by studying whether or not black people deserve reparations inside of Chicago. I think that this is all one big coup, honestly. My opinion of this is as such. I think that it's a coup, meaning that it's a way for them to continue to make money off of the backs of people that's easily finessed. It's a way for them to be able to tap into your emotional side. And then last but not least, this is a way for politicians, in my opinion, roll with me here. This is a way for politicians, in my opinion, to tap into what you think emotionally instead of what's best for you in the community, because they know that if they continue to dangle this carrot in front of your face and they can leverage taxpayer dollars in order to do so, what it will do is it will endear you to these politicians that are currently in office to continue to vote for them when election time comes. It's always a long-term play. It's always a long-term play. This is an opportunity for them to make sure that they continue to clean up their image. You will forget what happened during the migrant crisis. You will forget what happened during the pandemic. You will forget that they sold your streets. You will forget about the crime that's happening in your community. You will forget about the defunding of the police. You will forget about your kids and your nephews and all of them getting shot inside of a neighborhood. You will forget about them continuing to fund the migrant crisis inside of your own city to the tune of millions and hundreds of millions of dollars. You won't even research through the Freedom of Information Act to find out exactly where all of the hundreds of millions of dollars that they spent on migrant crisis, where did it go? Who was the people that got it? What was the contractor? Who owns the companies? You won't see any of that come election time. You know why? You know why? Because they formed a task force to figure out how they can reparate and make whole black people in the city of Chicago.
Check. It's correct us, make us right so that we don't have the problems that we continue to have, that we've been having, not just through being enslaved, but through the Jim Crow laws, through all the redlining.
In 2021, descendants of enslaved Africans in Evanston began receiving reparations which continue today, all from $10 million set aside from taxing cannabis sales. Those selected receiving $25,000, which they can apply towards a mortgage or home repairs.
Unlike Evanston, where it's real estate specific, you're saying the Chicago model may be much broader.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. And again, like I said, the Evanston model was perfect, and it was perfect for Evanston.
And that's how they do it. They kick open the door by throwing a seed over there, and then they leapfrog off of it in order to get y'all invested.
We need to find that model that fits the city of Chicago.
Again, that Evanston model continues. This year in Evanston, the city expects 80 direct descendants of slaves to take part in their $25,000 reparations program. The move by Chicago's mayor comes as New York's governor and legislators in California have also taken up the matter of late. Next up for the city, the mayor's task force will hold public hearings and conduct a study to develop plans for how to roll this out in coming years.
So that is what's happening in Chicago. Shout out to everybody that lost their life over the weekend. Shout out to the wheelchair guy that was able to get out of there safely without getting hit. And shout out to Mayor Brandon Johnson for holding y'all down over there in the city of Chi-Town. Chi-Town.